then I will
Yes, sir. You
then
can
I will
start.
unmute myself.
খুলে যাবেন।
Swamiji, recording is started. You can start the talk, sir.
Can we start?
Yes, sir.
All right. Namaste. Good evening, everyone. Human life from time immemorial has had certain salient features. The human mind has, over centuries, in fact over thousands of years, indulged in repetitive patterns. Therefore, it is very often said that we don't seem to learn from history at all. We make the same mistakes over and over again. One of those traps or trappings in human life, especially in what we call the psychological life, is to fall in love with an ideology. Friends, in this examination of our own living, please note, we are not looking into any particular compartment such as religion or politics. With regard to this topic, for example, there are ideologies in practical religious ideologies are much talked about, and much bloodshed has taken place because people fight against each other, clinging to ideologies. So with
Sir, your voice is breaking, sir.
idea.
Sir, your voice is not coming clear, sir.
Democracy or communism or socialism or there are many other combinations. There are ideas or there are some net problem. I cannot do anything about it. Keep the source of internet close.
Swamiji, your voice is breaking, sir.
Sorry, my internet has been giving some trouble for last 2 days. I opened a couple of more windows, so it should be a little better now. So
स्वामी जी,
let me continue. I hope I am
स्वामी जी आप
more audible now.
वीडियो ऑफ
So
करके बात करें.
I said, oh, can barely hear the speaker. Is that the case, everyone? हाँ, ठीक है, वो कोशिश करते हैं, right?
Yes.
So is it a little better?
Yes, sir.
Video off किया. Okay. So I will try a little. It's a temporary problem with the internet over here, I think. So I was saying that there are political ideologies with which human beings, you and I, get very attached. And we are even ready to sacrifice our life for the so-called ideology. There are religious ideologies, and there are ideologies about how family has to be, ideologies about how an individual has to be. As you know, it is often said that the Western model is highly individualistic, each to himself or herself. I want to have my space, please you have your space. That's also an ideology. I am told by some parents, NRI parents in the West, that their children openly say to them, Dad, Mom, don't ask me where I am going. Don't ask me why I am coming late in the evening. And there is an interesting slogan, don't ask, don't tell. What does that mean? The grown-up boys and girls say to the parents, you don't ask us what we are doing, and you don't tell us what you and mom or you and dad are doing. You do whatever you want, we will do whatever we want. So that is considered a kind of individualistic outlook, and the West is said to have promoted it. And the East, you and I are in the eastern part of the world, is generally described as very much conforming to tradition, to some family values, and so on. So, in all these different domains, there are subsections. There are again, for example, within the Islamic world, Hindus, there are various castes. The Christian world, Protestant, all these divisions, the human mind is quite in turmoil. So, in a few words, I wish to share with you what the teachings of lofty seers like Sri J. Krishnamurti have to say about ideologies. To be frank with you, friends, I myself am yet to grapple with this issue in adequate measure. I have a sense of what is being said, but I myself find sometimes certain pictures as very attracting. This is how we should be. This is how the country should be. This is how the world should be, and so on. Ideas give us certain excitement. And then we also see the disillusionment that so many have suffered in this matter. I must tell you that this business of ideology, which is being wedded to an idea or an ideal, I guess etymologically it is being wedded to, being wedded to an idea, but not much different from that is being wedded to an ideal. So why do you allow yourself to be caught in the clutches of an idea? As we said before, When an idea looks very attractive, we find hope in that. We begin to imagine, this is the way things have to be. And we create a rosy picture of what future will be. Then tremendous energy rises in us. Maybe some endocrinologists or other experts in medicine and biology would even give the name of the particular hormone or some particular secretion in some gland, which will happen when somebody falls in love with an ideology. Ideology releases crazy energy within us. You know, but at this point, I want to point out, if you if you stand against all ideologies, be careful. That might be another ideology in your mind. I don't want to belong to any ism. I am going for a war against all isms. I will pull down all structures. Suppose you go just examine your mind. You might have fallen in love with pulling down structures, just as the other people are in love with, building or setting up structures. Then I'm afraid it is going from one to its opposite. And Krishna ji has always cautioned us against going from one to its opposite. At one time, you, let us say, loved money, you admired moneyed people, and you are hankering after getting wealthy. Imagine another point, you dislike the wealthy people. You suppose hate wealthy people, and you want to throw away whatever comforts you have. And you think that you have become a big person through that. Sorry, that would be another ideology. At one time, you see, another domain is food. Vegetarianism might have become an ideology for you. Another time, maybe meat eating. Eat lot of meat, be strong. God made the animals for our consumption. Some people have that ideology too. So we can give countless examples of ideologies in science and technology too. Nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with religion. Some scientists have an ideology, go for maximum industrialization, and some others may go for the opposite, have the least industries, live with nature. So, without making it very long, I must dwell on what is wrong with ideology. Number one, ideals could be far from the actual. We have not understood the actual, and we are deriving some peculiar comfort with the ideal. Now, if you say, no, an ideal gives you a direction, an ideal helps you gather your energy and da da da, we would say, my dear friend, if you think that you got an ideal and now you are going to draw all your energy and march in that direction, how sure are you that this idea, either way, the picture you have in your mind is rooted in truth? Quite possibly, it could be a fancy. Quite possibly, it worked well for somebody else, and for you, it could not be. Quite possibly, you have brought yourself to a situation which they call in English, you are a round peg in a square hole, or other way also, you are a square peg in a round hole. Alas, both of them could be a tragedy. Many people go with the ideology of becoming some actor to Bollywood. Only in 1 out of 100 succeed. 99 out of them eat humble pie and come back to their villages or settle in Mumbai doing something else. in that big city of Bombay, about which they say Bombay never sleeps. And Bombay is an Annapurna, provides food and some job to do for practically everybody. But what happened to their ideology, their vision? In religion too, in politics too, countless are the examples of people who rush into a certain way of living and later find the reality is different from the ideology that they thought about. Therefore, you may say, if ideologies take us away from actuality, from the fact of life, from perceiving or feeling life the way it is, what are we to do? This, what are we to do? That question itself has something with a foul smell. You are so eager to do, you are so eager to get going with an action plan. Alas, action without seeing is no action. And if there is, then that is right action right away. If there is seeing, right action takes place without your struggling for it. If there is no seeing, the action plan that you take in your hands with much excitement could only bring, as Krishnaji somewhere says, ash in your hands. You find at the end of it, there is only ash, rock in your hands. How sad. So, in a manner of saying, it's not that we are giving another alternative action plan. In a manner of saying, the, the way out is to be aware of the play of the mind, not to fall into the trap of something rosy, not to follow somebody who gave a great speech, not to follow somebody who had a certain personality and got excited by her or his personality. Lot of mumbo jumbo takes place once more in all walks of life. Please don't hammer religion only. With many domains, fields of human endeavor, a lot of show takes place. And take, for example, the finance market. It was a few years ago that in California, a lady started a pharmaceutical company. And you know what? She brought out some product and did such wonderful marketing that it sold very well and it was priced very high and the company's stocks were rising high. She became a multi-billionaire. And within 2 or 3 years, in the Western world, there are very powerful investigative agencies. Without anybody appointing them, they themselves take up the task of investigating somebody's success story. They go get as much data as possible. That lady was exposed to have not yet found the drug which she was talking about. She was organizing a lot of research, no doubt, but she had not really found the wonder drug about which she talked so well, and her dynamism and her some kind of graceful personality or whatever, all that led to whole lot of people investing their money in that company. That is also an ideology of that woman who visualized something and who successfully made lots of people put money into her work. So whether it's a religious leader or an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley or Hyderabad or Bangalore, anyone who sort of makes large number of people believe that something big is going to happen, come with me, follow me, stand with me, walk with me. Now that is dangerous. Therefore, if you and I can be more attentive to the way our machine called the mind is working, the mind is a machine, we could be more sensible. There is no standard formula to save ourselves from the perils of ideologies. There is no formula which consists of step one, step two, step three. For this freedom, this getting out of the net of thought, getting out of the what they call network of thought, is not through a procedure. It is only through being a light unto yourself. Those of us who cling to somebody, who follow somebody out of some excitement, are as much in trouble as those of us who enjoy having followers, having people admire us, having people say to us, "What a wonderful talk you gave! Oh, how wonderfully you explained something, etc." The act itself is not a problem. Somebody praises you, why find fault with him? But when somebody praises you, does it go to your head? Does it get into your head? If that happens, you better be extra cautious. If you like somebody's speech or some action, that's understandable. But are you going that far as to become a follower and blindly copy whatever that person is doing? So, as you can see easily, all these boil down to the simple teaching of do not be trapped in a concept, do not be in the clutches of some imagery, some image of things, of people, of places, of positions. About every position, you and I can have an image. From a distance, we look at somebody who is, let us say, a member of parliament. We can have an image. How nice it would be if I were a member of parliament. How nice it would be if I were a cricketer, test cricketer, you know. So all these are human fancies. Therefore, there is, let me conclude my remarks by referring to Krishnaji, who, among a lot of his insightful and precious insights, said to all of us, can
Swamiji, your voice is breaking.
to not from one ideology to another, not from one fancy to another. Can you go from ideology to fact? To fact is our coming out from self.
Swamiji, your voice is breaking. Can we hear something from Harshad sir? Harshad sir?
Oh, yeah. That's how I said I am concluding by referring to the statement. Pardon? Yeah. Let us request Harshad sir.
Harshad sir, you can unmute and say what you have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Are you able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, friends. And thank you, Swamiji. Your voice was not coming well in the last few minutes. This topic is very, very vast topic. And generally, the students who have studied history and politics, they can speak a lot about these ideologies which have affected human life in the 20th century, because the 20th century is considered to be the century of ideology. And those ideologies are like communism and capitalism, democracy, globalization, socialism, and so many these big ideologies, and all, of course, nationalism and religious ideologies. And all these ideologies have affected human beings very much. Like when India became independent, this country was divided based on religious ideologies, that people who want a separate country, Muslims, they wanted a separate country. And Jinnah wanted to be the prime minister of the whole India and Pakistan, but that was not agreeable to Jawaharlal Nehru, because Jawaharlal Nehru also wanted to be the prime minister. So they had to divide India and Pakistan based on religious ideology. And we all know how many millions of people died while they were during this partition. And also the War One, World War Two, they were all also based on ideological differences. And even after World War II, there was a Cold War between America and Russia, and that was because of communism against capitalism, this ideology. So one can study all this, um, and one can go on increasing knowledge about this ideology. And India has an ideology that it is a democratic country, secular. That means all religion are allowed, and equality. Everybody has an equal right for voting. Whereas Pakistan is a Muslim country where the minorities, they don't have such rights. So these ideologies affect, religious ideologies affect human life. And we come to ideology in the field of psychology. Like we come to, when we talk about psychology, we talk about individual, how we live our life. Is our life based on some ideology, or it is not based on ideology, but seeing things clearly as they are? Krishnamurti talked a lot about ideology which divides people, and he says the ultimate truth is beyond all ideologies. And people form ideology because they are escaping from their monotonous, stupid life. That is what Krishnaji said. And if you try to base your life based on some ideology, ideal, like ahimsa, you will not be violent if you decide, but inside you feel violent, and so you form this ideology of ahimsa. Then there is a conflict between what actually is and what you like to be. So these ideologies, they create conflict in the life of a human being, as well as it creates conflict and war among countries. So ideology is not the right way for individually, for people who want to really understand their own self, their problems like fear, anger, and so many problems, this cannot be tackled by any ideology, but they can be seen clearly. And that requires not just thinking, but something more, something different than thinking, which can look at thinking very clearly. And that is that thing, what Krishnamurti calls awareness or choiceless awareness or intelligence or attention or insight. Many words are there, which means that one has to be free to look at oneself as we are, moment by moment, without making any effort, because this works only when a person is very, very curious and he really wants to see how his mind is working every day, not during dialogues only, but after the dialogue is over or before the dialogue starts, or during the entire day, and even at night, our mind is working. Something is going on. There is this train of thinking is going on. And from that thinking, many problems arise when there is no real seeing clearly. So out of thinking may arise fear of what will happen about this corona problem, a new variant, Omicron coming, and we have to travel and we have to take many precautions. And we may think about this and it may create many unnecessary fear. Of course, precautions need to be taken. So from thinking arises fear, and then there is anger, and so many problems come in human life. And the ideology doesn't work at that time, because ideology means certain pattern which you have fixed. But our thinking doesn't work according to any ideology. And at one moment, it is thinking one thing, it is very happy, and then suddenly something happens and it becomes very sad, or it sometimes it get excited. So our mind is changing color every moment, like the color on a soap bubble. So sometimes I consider our human mind is like a soap bubble. And when you make this soap bubble, you see colors changing on the surface of the bubble continuously. So similarly, our mind is continuously changing colors, emotions, thoughts. So people who are interested in looking at this bubble called the mind from a dimension different than thinking, then there's a learning goes on moment by moment, and that solves our problems. So as soon as the anger, the color of anger arises, one can see it, how it is arising, and then that seeing becomes the action. So here there is no ideology, no fixed action to be taken, but just merely seeing what is happening moment by moment. And in that, we are learning about ourselves actually as we are. And when we begin to learn about ourselves as we are, then there will be no conflict. Then we don't try to show off something which we are not. And so people who are not very clear and they are following some system, then they will have to show something other. They have to act. It is like putting on a mask of a different mask, just like the actors they do in a film. They are acting. When there is no clarity, no clear seeing, then one has to act, and that acting can lead to deterioration of the mind due to many conflicts. And these conflicts arise within oneself and with people around. So only in direct seeing without any ideology, there is a real action which takes place. And this is what I learned from Krishnamurti. Um, but generally, this is a very difficult approach because that freedom to look exactly how our thinking is working moment by moment is the most difficult thing because it requires curiosity, passion, honesty to look at oneself. And such qualities are very rare. And so people follow some guru or some ideal, but that creates that, in my view, it may not help. However, I am not against people who are following any ideology. They can do whatever they do because it is their life, people who want to follow. And if that ideology is helping them to be peaceful, even for some time, like doing meditation based on Buddhist idea or a Hindu idea, it is fine, or Vipassana meditation. These are some ideologies, some methods which people can use to calm down their mind temporarily. And if it helps, then that is good enough. Like this transcendental meditation, which Maharishi Mahesh Yogi used to teach. And you do 20 minutes of meditation in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening, and then see if it helps in your life. But that will not solve our problem, which comes suddenly in relationship. So only Krishnamurti's teachings, in which there is only clear seeing moment by moment, that is that perception is the action, but that is for very, very few people who want to give their whole life to look. And it requires a tremendous energy to look like that. And that is why I feel that Krishnamurti's teachings are not uh, appreciated by majority of the people. Uh, Generally, those who are very articulate, articulate, who are university professors or research people, they are interested in Krishnamurti because there is some logic in Krishnamurti teachings too. But the teachings goes beyond logic actually. Logic is just to understand the concepts which Krishna, and people are making concepts out of Krishnamurti teachings, and then they try to follow the concept that also doesn't work actually. So many intellectuals who have studied Krishnamurti teachings for many years, even then they said that they are not free from their problems. There are conflicts and desire for power and money and all that exists. So the real thing the real teachings are the teachings which, whether it is Upanishad teachings or it is Buddhist or Krishnamurti teachings, the teachings which make you see yourself exactly as you are, without any pretension and with freedom, such teachings can really are the best teachings available. And there are many good teachers also. Only depends on how a person is listening or reading a book, and how much he's able to give his whole energy, attention, everything to understand and to be free from the problems. Okay, I have finished. Thank you.
Arshad sir.
Yeah.
Hareshwar Singh, he has said one thing in his chat. Are you able to
Uh-huh.
listen to me, sir?
Yes, I am able to listen.
Yes. He
Yeah.
has said in his chat that he is unable to attend due to the say something. But he has written in his chat, and he wants to say that is Krishnamurti teaching is also an ideology.
Okay.
He has asked
Yes.
one question in
Okay.
that way.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
anybody, if he wants to say something or ask some question or comment, then he has to raise his hand. Then I will unmute him, and he can say, as Devrata Devara has asked, raised his hand. I will unmute him.
May I answer this Hareshwar's question first?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I do not consider Krishnamurti's teachings as an ideology. It becomes ideology if you read Krishnamurti and then think about it and then find a way of living according to the concepts derived from Krishnamurti, then it becomes an ideology. But Krishnamurti says don't uh, follow what he's saying, but look at your own life, your own mind, and you can learn from only direct observation of your own mind. You can't learn from Krishnamurti and accepting and following any idea. Okay. Anybody would like to ask question? Yeah. Yes.
Devrata Devara.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Don't please, sir, please don't call me sir. I'm actually relatively very young. I'm just in my mid-20s right now. And as I sit in this very diverse crowd of such able man, I mean, such literally man all over the sphere. So, but then, yeah, I mean, I heard the entire conversation, which was presided and initiated with Swamiji, and then I think I've heard Mr. Parikh speak for quite a while right now. But then a few things here. I mean, the whole central theme of today's discussion was about ideology, right? But then I think, and also another question which has been just put forward, which goes on to assert were Jaddu's teachings some form of an ideology as well. But I think if one has studied Krishnamurti enough, for which I have probably have for like last 3-4 years, there weren't any methods discussed. He never kind of proposed any methods or how do I say it? I mean, there wasn't any kind of a roadmap to which one would seek answers to expand one's consciousness. But having said that, I mean, right now, the whole frame of ideology has taken a very different dimension in today's world. I mean, for what it used to be back then. So
it's more or less improvised right now. Ideology in today's time has different nuances, has different names and different formats. But then if you are to break down the whole seed of ideology, I think it basically begins with a very parent thing, which is thought. So I think thoughts, in a way, procreate images. Images build a certain narrative, and I think this is what an ideology is kind of construed upon. So the whole understanding of ideology begins with one's mental thought patterns, and how those thought patterns kind of procreate different imagerial forms. And those imagerial forms again kind of reproduce. And another thing which I was just thinking right now, which was pretty abrupt as I was, it came on to me very, very quickly. Like, I think ideology is again one thing which we, as common people, we practice every day. Some like to call it principles. Some like to call it, there are different names, different ornamentation of words again. But then I think something which people say that I abide by certain principles. Now, what are the supporting elements to those principles, right? If I say that if I have certain principles that I stand by in my life, where are the principles stemming out from? So again, I think ideology has got different nuances, different names, and different formats. But then how people adhere to those ideologies is again very different. It could be situational, it could be circumstantial. So I think in a broader spectrum of things, ideology is very easy to identify because it always has a common denominator. And the common denominator is herd mentality, because ideology can never operate on its own. And I personally believe people who resort to some or the other form of ideology, they undergo or they are in some present or existential form of identity crisis. So when identity crisis arises, it always takes a shape, it always wants a refuge where it can find a consensus, a mutual consensus. So I think collective identity crisis is what people of my generation collectively are facing in this world in today's time. So I would want to learn and understand how you people in this whole panel think about it. I think identity crisis is the only reason which, in a way, contributes towards ideology.
Arshad sir.
Swamiji, you want to?
Swamiji. Swamiji is not here, sir.
Not
to
here, okay.
answer.
So maybe I say something about
Yes, sir.
what this Dev Roy said something about identity crisis. Can you tell me what you mean by identity crisis? From your own looking, what kind of, do you have any identity crisis? And I like to know a little about that.
So see, again, so identity crisis, I think arises due to certain validations and approvals that we seek in our life. Probably there is a certain way of living a life. Like I've said, it could be principles, different names to it. Now, if 3 people or 4 people whom I know in my circle do not find themselves relevant to that commonality which I have just spoken about, is in terms of like this is what I see in life, these are my abiding principles in life. So when certain people want to be relevant, or rather want to be validated, not by what they think or how they act, but rather by what others around them, the ecosystem in which they are placed at, they kind of approve or validate, and once they see that, the kind of mental imagery that I have regarding certain things, if that doesn't fall into place with how others think and react or perceive, let's just say, that's where I think identity crisis slowly starts to blossom out. And that's
okay.
where
Can
you,
I?
yeah.
Yeah, okay, I understood. It has
Yeah,
to
can I
do
say
with
something?
1 minute, just 1 minute I will take
Sure,
about, yeah.
sure.
That identity crisis happens when there is no clarity, when you want to become somebody other than what you are. So there is already a kind of conflict between what is and what should be. So that is where the identity crisis comes. Like if you have friends who are smoking and drinking, and you want to be the part of the group, and you know that smoking and drinking is harmful for you, but still you value the friendship more than your health, then you will also start smoking and drinking. So people who really want to understand deeply, they will have to stand alone on their own. And it doesn't matter where your friends go, in which direction. Uh, one must have the clarity that one wants to really understand oneself and not follow some guru, not even Krishnamurti following. So I think it has to do with the strength to be alone. Okay, yes. Hareshwar,
Hareshwar Singh.
yeah.
Hareshwar ji, Harish ji.
Harish, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You know, modern generation and the world. Hello, am
Yeah,
I
yes.
audible?
Yes,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
are audible,
okay.
sir.
Yes. If the modern
Your voice is breaking, sir.
generation or the modern world is truly faced with identity crisis,
Harish ji, your voice is breaking, sir.
means knowing people. I cannot. I don't know
Not coming. Voice not coming.
Your voice is not
how I
coming, Harish ji.
can improve
Harish ji, your voice is not coming, sir. You please put it in the chat itself. Harish ji,
any better?
Hareshwar, your voice not coming. Anyone else who would like to ask question?
Harshad sir.
Yeah.
Right.
Hareshwar Singh ji has asked the
Let me
question.
try. You see any improvement?
Hareshwar Singh ji, Harish ji.
I can hear you well.
Yes, your voice is breaking, sir.
I have no difficulty in listening, hearing you, but you can't hear me, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Your voice is now coming clear, but you should ask your question. Basically, what you are asking in the chat itself, that truth is pathless land.
No. Sorry. I'm saying something more important than that. Okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
are able to hear.
Okay. You see, the way Debantu put forward identity crisis, Krishnamurti questioned this whole idea of identity. Because you see, it's a healthy thing that for the first time, humanity is literally following Krishnamurti by losing identity. You know, the boundaries, now my identity, I call myself a Hindu. Suppose I believe that I am a Hindu, there is no identity crisis. But Krishnamurti doesn't want that. I believe that I am an Indian, not only because of holding Indian passport, but because of my conformity, because of my jingoism, because of my national chauvinism. You see, to be, Krishnamurti said, you are a mere human being, absolutely no identity. Krishnamurti also said, I hold an Indian passport, but I don't believe that India is better than something or whatever it is. So identity crisis is a healthy thing and it has to be strengthened. So he said that if you put aside all your background, caste, color, creed, language, whatever, then you are nothing. You are nothing. And that nothingness is what we are aiming for, in the spiritual world. That nothingness contains the seeds of everything, totality.
Yeah, Harish, to be nothing is very, very frightening for most people. And so people like to escape from their own mind and they involve in some external activities because freedom means to have no sense, no identity is very, very frightening. And that's why freedom, very, very few people uh, can come to that state in which there is no I, no me, no thinking, only senses working perfectly and looking at everything without images. And that is the real teachings of Krishnamurti. But to come to that state of looking without images, without the sense of I, me, that freedom, one has to really look what is happening within oneself and not escape from oneself. Generally, it is very, very frightening for the mind to come to a stop. And so that is why it is very difficult. The most difficult thing is this freedom from the self. Okay, I finish.
Sir, Anand sir, Anand Ramagood sir,
yes.
I want to say only one thing, then you can start sir your version. I want to say only one thing. Hareshwar Singh he has asked that the truth is pathless land. Are you able to listen to me, sir? Harshad sir?
Yes, I'm able to listen. Yes.
Hareshwar Singh ji has asked,
Yeah.
is truth is pathless land another ideology?
It is a metaphor. It is a metaphor because the truth is not a land, and it is. We don't know. Truth is a word which we have invented in English language. But what does it represent? Probably it represents something which is unknown. And that unknown can come to a human being if the human being has really looked everything, what is happening, and able to see clearly. Then that's something which Krishnaji calls it otherness or blessings or sacred. All that thing can happen, but it may happen or it may not happen. And if it happens, that kind of truth, it would be not continuous thing. It may come and go, as in the life of Krishnamurti, he describes suddenly it was there, he says in his notebook. So truth is a pathless land is a metaphor because truth is not a land. Land is something which is fixed, but truth is not fixed. It is from moment to moment. And a person who can look at exactly what is happening within him without images, without thinking, you can say that such a person is in touch with what is. And in that, there is no what should be, and there are no conflicts. And that moving with what is um, in that there is no psychological time. And that is what freedom is. Okay, this is what I like to say about truth
I
is the
want to add,
pathless land. Yeah.
I want to add only one thing, that it is
Yeah.
a kind of proposal, basically proposal to us,
Yeah.
proposal to who has to find for himself in the self knowing itself.
Yeah.
Then
What?
then
Yeah.
I
What
am only saying that
Krishnaji?
I am only
Yeah.
saying that it is a proposal, and one has
Yeah.
to find it in his own self knowing itself.
Yeah. No,
And-
why Krishnaji said this? Because he was in such a state of freedom where he was not following any ideology, and he was able to see clearly. And for such a person who is able to see within himself as well as outside what is happening clearly, and such a person doesn't need to follow any ideology. And so he was not applying any method on himself. And so what he said was true for him, but it
Yes.
may not be true for other people, like all the listeners. If people just agree with Krishnamurti that truth is a pathless land, and then they don't do anything, and they can even deteriorate further, they become more confused. So many people, after reading Krishnamurti and just understanding intellectually, but not able to live that way, then they get confused and there are many conflicts. So I know many people, some people even told me that they made a mistake in reading Krishnamurti, because now they know what is true, but there is no freedom to live that way. So it creates more conflict, and some people are not able to sleep at night. And so it is a dangerous teaching also, I would say. And once Krishnaji also said that these teachings is dangerous in the sense that if you understand intellectually, but you cannot live that way, then it will become like a poison to you. It will create more conflict in you. So I would say, yes, that is right. One has to go all the way if a person is interested in Krishnamurti. And that means not that means just looking at oneself and learning directly from one's own looking.
Right,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah.
Anand sir. Anand Ram.
Yes, sir. But there are few observations are there. Like when we talk about identity, I need to understand that me itself is an illusion. So can I look at that as a question? And second, when someone has said truth is a pathless land. Now, if I believe, then I make it an ideal, then it becomes a problem. So can I understand only a dead thing will have a path to it? It is there at a particular place. But whereas truth is supposed to be dynamic, so there is no path to it. So again, to understand this, it's quite a challenge. I mean, can I listen to K is what one has to understand, but then immediately I go into interpretations of all what he's saying. And again, when we say that I have to understand K, that becomes again K has said, you can never understand me. And when if I call it K's teaching again, I'm lost. He says, understand yourself. That's all he says. The moment you're trying to understand him, again, we're making him into an ideal. I mean, I start following him. So and when we talk about ideology, K has said, I mean, I'm putting within quotes that all my actions, 99.9% of our actions are based on an approximation of a belief, an idea, an ideal, a concept, an image. So 99.9% of my actions are based on that. How do I understand that is the question, sir. Over.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah. this question, how can I understand, how can I see, that again, you know that there is no method for that. Only people who are very, very passionate and they can turn the attention inward, not looking at the world and talk about the people are eating meat and getting lost into humanity problems, but looking at oneself and seeing clearly how thoughts and feelings are arising. And that requires a tremendous energy to look. A kind of freedom is required at the beginning to look at oneself. So there is no method, how can I look? But if you say, is it possible to look? I would say, yes, it is possible. And people who are deeply passionate about it, very curious, and they are not interested in looking in order to become like Krishnamurti, but it is wonderful to look. Just like little children, they are interested in looking at a butterfly. Similarly, there is so much happening within us, in our body and mind, and we are not interested. And so we are more interested in football or politics or films and fashion, and all that occupies, or even gather information, knowledge about various teachers, spiritual teachers. So Krishnamurti, what he says, forget everything what you have learned, even what you have learned from Krishnamurti, and just be alone, silent, turn the attention inward, look at how your thoughts and feelings are coming without trying to change it. So that is a choiceless awareness, and it is possible for people who are deeply interested in that. Yes, I finished.
So my question was, how do I understand, in the sense, 99.9% means nearly 100% of my actions are based on it. Can I look at that is a question, sir. I may think, I'm being very practical, I see it and all that. I'm aware of it. But all my actions, 99.9% of it, are based on my beliefs, on my ideas and concepts. That is all I'm saying. Again, Krishnamurti, in almost all his talks, he has mentioned about killing. Have I looked at it as a question? He said, you don't have to kill to eat, he said. That is what one has to look at it. Why has he mentioned so much? He said, you're destroying all living species, you're destroying yourself, you're destroying the planet. He has mentioned in many places. We don't pay attention to that. We pay attention only how to understand K and how to become enlightened, all that. But we never seem to be looking at the practical problem we are facing today, what he saw about 50, 60 years back. Even the scientists then did not talk about it. Today, 97% of the scientists are talking about it.
Yeah.
So one has to look at it. The point is not to do it or not to do it. Can I listen to what K is talking about? Can I see what is happening right now today in this on this planet? That is what it is, sir. That's all.
Yeah.
So, sir, I have a question. I have a question as well. Like, I think I would second to what Mr. Anand has just spoken here, to quite a good degree. So my only question right here comes out as, how do we achieve this human autonomy, as individualistic beings? I mean, keeping all the person and the personhood aside, as beings, how do we achieve an autonomy, a human autonomy, which is probably common to every human, but then again, at the same time, gives us that space to reflect and to understand, like which K has also kind of emoted several times, like complete observation without evaluation. Because that is what even thoughts do, right? Thoughts do act as, they do act as evaluating mechanisms as well. They evaluate, they dissect. So all in all, what I want to understand is, how do we start to somewhere begin so that we achieve a complete and an absolute human autonomy as living beings in the first place to begin with?
Yeah. Okay. May I answer that?
Yes, sir.
Autonomy. First of all, a person must be able to be alone. And initially, maybe in a quiet place, maybe in your room or in a garden or park. And then look at the things outside, everything, and then turn the attention inward and look the thoughts and feelings arising. So in this, there is not much to achieve. You use the word how to achieve. Krishnamurti never talked about achieving anything, just seeing things as they are. So is it possible for a human being to turn the attention inward and see how thoughts and feelings are arising? And as Anandji said, there is a lot of violence. There is violence within oneself, not only the physical violence of killing, but even this getting angry is a violence to the body, to the mind. And there are many, many things which we do, harmful things which we are not aware, kind of food we eat, kind of language which we speak, and so many things. So there is so much to just look exactly as it is and not trying to change it. That is what Krishnamurti calls choiceless awareness. And that is not thinking. It is looking at thinking from awareness. So this is very difficult for most people because most people are trying to understand Krishnamurti through thinking, and then they extract certain principles, concepts from Krishnamurti and try to follow it. It doesn't work. This is moment by moment looking at oneself within and learning from it directly. So when somebody says something unpleasant to you and the anger is arising, some reaction, is it possible to look exactly at that moment when it is arising? So that is what Krishnamurti teachings is, looking within oneself exactly as it is. Not that I want to be free from anger, but can I look at the anger which is arising and what is behind it? And Krishnamurti has explained it, but one has to look what is behind anger or behind violence. And violence is not only killing, but also when you use bad words, try to hurt somebody psychologically, that is a violence too. So Krishnamurti talks violence in a much deeper sense than the just killing animals and human beings. Okay, I finish.
Harshad sir.
Yeah. Yes.
It is already 7:25.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So you can conclude by saying something about ideology.
Okay. Yeah.
Ideology and how to be free from the ideology itself.
Okay. Yes, I have already said that Krishnamurti's teachings are not ideology. There is no ideology in Krishnamurti. He is not preparing also even his talks. He is speaking from the direct observation of his own mind. And it comes out beautifully when he speaks, and it comes out logically also, because it comes from a silent clarity. So Krishnamurti's teachings are about looking within ourselves. And of course, later on, we can also look outside also very clearly. But first, we are not aware of many things happening within us, how we get boredom. Because I hear little children, they say it is very boring, but they have not asked what is boredom, what is behind it. So one has to look very minutely within oneself, what is boredom, what is jealousy, why fear, anger, comparison, competition. So there's so much to learn by looking directly within oneself. And no matter how many books one can read about anger, one will not be free from anger. But when a person is able to look when anger is arising, then he will, but to look at anger arising, a person needs the freedom to look. So freedom is at the beginning again, and it may come by just looking. Pradeep ji, you want to say something?
Yes.
Verma ji asked.
Yeah.
Is it audible? Everything? Audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Firstly, I congratulate Devtanu Devroy for a very clean perception. Harishji said identity crisis is good. As long as one has image about himself or herself, this crisis is bound to be there. And it is there by and large in all of us. That takes us to different people, gurus, ideologies to get some solace. You see, we cannot overlook what is present generation is going through. I don't know, till this point, I appreciated his point, but then somewhere he said autonomy, how to get full autonomy, individual autonomy, where he is also taking step, whether he is looking forward for this totally autonomy, irrespective of changes around, moment to moment changes. Are we looking for autonomy, that autonomy? Then Harshadji talked about going inside, looking ourselves, but we know that we ourselves, as we ourselves, or me, is the world, and it's a fact. How many things I can tell which I have not borrowed from this world? This comparison is always there, and it's a highly competitive society now. So this identity crisis is bound to be more. And why these teachings? We always refer, we always quote JK as if, but in our daily life, in our daily living, how many times we remember him living our 24 hours daily life? This is what happens to most of the teachings, most of the scriptures, most of the gurus, whatever you may say. That's why these things have not become common. And we make it still difficult by saying that not outside or inside. Inside, what is inside? Krishnamurti talked about inside and outside, also that there is no inside and outside.
Okay.
So this is what I feel, that we have to see what is today, right this moment, and around me, not talking about JK, which he talked long back, with different people differently. So we have to be careful. That's why if we really want, then something different, a different approach has to be there. This is what I feel. Thank you very much for giving me time when it was very short.
Yeah. One thing I want to say, maybe it's a time almost 7:30. One thing I want to say that we can borrow the knowledge from the world, but awareness and intelligence cannot be borrowed. And that is where the problem lies with the human being, because as long as awareness is not awakened, we cannot see thinking very, very clearly. And awareness is in a different dimension than thinking. So as long as awareness is not awakened, there will be many, many doubts, many questions. Even one can say that awareness is just a product of thinking. Many people would say, as long as they have not come to that state. But when awareness is awakened, there are no questions, only to see what is happening inside you. And you can look at outside also happening. So that is our main problem. And Krishnamurti's teaching, he was trying to awaken that awareness or intelligence in people while they were listening, not gathering knowledge and then thinking about it. So that is why it is this young people, you say, it is not only young people, old people, everybody, every human being has this problem, are not able to see things clearly, and then becoming angry or becoming lonely or boredom, jealousy, comparison. This is even young children, they are going through this, and old people are also going through this. So the only those who are really passionately, deeply interested in looking inward, not gathering knowledge, and then this awareness gets ignited, then things becomes very easy. And then you will say what Krishnamurti says is obvious, that freedom is at the beginning. It's not at the end. Okay, I have finished.
So can Krishnamurti awaken me is a question, sir.
No, you cannot.
May I say a word?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
okay, yeah.
Time is
May I say?
coming
Because
to an end,
time is
Varmaji.
short, I will just
Please,
say one
keep it short.
sentence.
Short.
Yes, because awareness has been made into a very mystical type of thing, as if something has to be done to be aware. Lot of awareness is associated with life itself and with survival. Now, how do you see survival is a different issue. That's a different issue that becomes psychological and all those things. But awareness is always there associated with life in general, not only human life. This is what I have to say. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, sir. May I,
Yeah.
may I end this, sir?
Please finish it. Please finish it.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thanks all.
Thank you, sir.